All right, this video is going to be all about metric measurement. Let me make it full screen here so we can see it better. Across the top, you'll see the metric measurements that they have to have memorized in 4th grade. There's not many of them, and they're actually really simple because they're all powers of 10. But in 4th grade, what is new to them is converting or changing from one to another. So like from meters to centimeters, or a liter to a milliliter, or grams to milligrams. If they're going from a smaller unit, such as centimeters, to a larger unit, such as meters, they are going to divide. If they are going from a larger unit, again, such as meters, to a smaller, such as centimeters, they're going to multiply. Now that's kind of hard to remember, so we have come up with some hand motions to help us do this. To show that we're starting at a small, I'm going to draw a stick figure here so you can see this. They are going to cross their hands to show a small unit, and then to show a large unit, they are going to hold their hands straight out to show that it is large. Where our hands start depends on whether our unit that we're going, where we're at, is a smaller unit going to a larger, or if it's larger going to smaller. This will make more sense as we look at our conversion charts. Our first chart here is a T-chart wanting to know meters to centimeters, and then there's some blanks. The first one says I have 3 meters, but it wants to know how many centimeters that is. So if I'm thinking back to my hands motions, I know the large because I know how many meters I have. So my hands would start out. Then I'm going to move them to the part that I don't know, which is smaller, so they're going to cross over my chest. And if you notice when it crosses over the chest, it makes an X. So if you think about the multiplication symbol, it is an X. So that tells us that we need to multiply. Now, so it's going to be 3 times something. Well, 3 times what would it be? Well, I know the relationship between meters and centimeters. Well, I know that there is 1 meter for every 100 centimeters. I know that 100 centimeters equals 1 meter. So I'm going to use that knowledge to help me. If I have 3 meters, I'm going to multiply by 100. 3 times 100 is 300. So the 3 meters is the same as 300 centimeters. Now let's look at the next one. In the next one, I know the small. The small being the centimeters, there's 500 of them. I don't know the larger meters, and that's what I want to know. So if I'm thinking back to my hand motions here, I'm going to start where I know. Well, I know the small, so my hands are going to start crossed over my chest like that to make that X. But I want to know the larger, so it's going to move from the X to having them both out, straight out. And if you look at that symbol when you do that, if you think of your head as a dot and your lower body as another dot and your arms going straight out like a line, it kind of looks like a division symbol. So that should tell us that we are dividing. We started small, we're going to the bigger, we're going to divide. So this time it's going to be 500 divided by, well, what? We're going to divide by the relationship of meters and centimeters, which is 100, because 100 centimeters equals 1 meter, and 500 divided by 100 is 5. So 500 centimeters is the same as 5 meters. Let's look at our next chart. It's going to work the same way, but this time I'm going from milliliters to liters. Now it's important that you know which one is the larger unit and which one is the smaller unit. Millimeters is the smaller unit. Liters is the larger. Now this is different than what I had you do in the very first chart. I'm trying to trick you. Don't let me. The meter is the larger, the centimeter is the smaller. You have to pay attention to the headers on these charts. Now let's look back at this second T chart. I know I have 10 liters. I know the larger. So again, I'm going to have my hands straight out. I'm going to start where I know. My hands are going to move to the part that I don't know, which is the smaller. So it's going to end crossed over my chest. That means I'm multiplying. So it's 10 times something. Well, 10 times what? Well, what's the relationship between liters and milliliters? Well, I know that 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. I'm going to draw a line here to separate this. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to multiply by 1,000 because 1,000 milliliters equals 1 liter. 10 times 1,000 is 10,000. Now let's look at the next one. I know the milliliter, so I know the smaller. My hands are going to start crossed over my chest to make that X. It's going to move to the part that I don't know, which is the larger. I know I have 8,000 milliliters. And with my hand motions, I know I need to divide. Well, what am I dividing that 8,000 by? Well, you're dividing it by that 1,000 because 1,000 milliliters equals a liter. That gives you 8 liters. Let's look at our last chart here. Same procedure. We do it the same way. This time, I'm going to know grams to milligrams. Don't let me trick you because grams are larger than milligrams. Now, I know the larger. I know 10 grams. So I'm going to start with my hands out, and they're going to move to the part that I don't know, which is milligrams, which is smaller. So I know I'm going to be multiplying. So 10 times what? Well, what's the relationship between grams and milligrams? 1 gram equals 1,000 milligrams. So I'm going to multiply by 1,000. And that gives me 10,000 milligrams. Now I'm going to look at the last one. This time I know the smaller, so my hands are going to start crossed over my chest, and they're going to move to the my hands being straight out. So that means I'm going to be dividing. So it's 11,000 divided by that 1,000. Remember, that's by that relationship. So that would give me 11 grams.